Welcome to the Amen Podcast, where all men from all walks of life, backgrounds, and ages can obtain the tools on how to become alpha men from a Christ-centered perspective in today's society. Here's your host, Jimmy Greer.
Welcome to the Amen Podcast. So what we're wanting to do is we want to help men get tools and really just be able to become stronger men. Because in today's society, what I personally noticed, I've raised two sons myself. They're both out of the home and two adult daughters as well. But what I've seen predominantly is that there's just a huge decline in masculinity. So if you are a straight male and who believes in God, what I tend to find out is that you're demonized as that kind of person when it comes to that identity. So again, I want to look at the areas of your mental focus, your spiritual focus, your physical focus, because these are all the things that I tend to find that we really are missing in our tool shed, if you will. When I've talked to different men about different areas of life, whether it's being a good stronger husband, a good leader, good pastor, a good coach, good father in general, I think the commonality that I get with people is that they were either aware of tools that they were missing and they weren't applying those, or there were tools that they didn't even know that they could really use and put to good use. So we want to try to help men to restore that alpha men mentality. And I think that there's a misidentification in our society today with that as well, because when I get into this, there's different guys out there that are doing what we're doing here, and they come off from a completely different perspective, and that's all fine and well. I'm not concerned about that. My concern is what kind of projection does God see us as, how we should be as strong men that are not the macho bull crap that you really see out there in society. I think that you have the strong, quiet leader that knows exactly and intently what he's about. He doesn't have to announce himself in the room, really. He's already been made aware. And that's my personal take. If I was going to look at, say, for instance, like John Wayne, we were familiar with John Wayne. Behemoth of a man would walk into the room and just command presence because of who he was. When he walked in the room, he didn't say, hey, by the way, everybody, I'm John Wayne. You knew who he was when he walked in the room. When you see an alpha male, the way that he carries himself is completely different than everybody else. Because when he walks in the room, he walks in with his leadership. He doesn't try to boast up and say, hey, check me out, look at me, look what I can do. That's just not the kind of alpha male that I really aspire to be or try to represent anyway. But so today, what we're just going to be looking at is we're really going to be looking at how to unpack those tools of the spiritual, the physical, the mental, and how those all really come together to make us stronger men. And to do that today, I brought in my guest today. His name is Paul Watson, and he is to say a coach, and that's kind of really understating what he is, at least to me personally. So I've known Paul for probably about 5 going on 5 years now.
Easily, yeah.
And so basically, when I came to Paul, as, let's just call it what it is. I want to be a competitive athlete in the Spartan and trail community is what I was trying to do. And I'd had some very minor success. And so this is kind of the way that it happened was, so I'm going to tell the stories. I walked into the gym, true story, and I'm starting to talk to Paul and just kind of introduce myself to him, let him know who I am, what I'm about, what I'm doing, right? And I said, one of the things that I've noticed is that my training, what I'm currently doing has only taken me so far. So then at this point, I say, well, you know what? There's some other gyms in the area that that are sponsoring people and are training people, and I want to know if you would come alongside of me and just really give me a different level of strength training, right? And so, definitely, there's no shameless plugs here because, Warrior Fitness has been a large part of my life in the last, definitely the last 5 years, and has literally changed my mental fortitude, has changed my physical abilities, has tested all of those areas. And I really owe that to Paul, because without those things, I would have never experienced some of the most incredible moments of my life, to be honest with you, really. And that's just the truth. So if you guys are in, the metro area of Fresno, Clovis, Central Valley area, and you're looking for a gym, I'm just going to say this and go ahead and plug it, is that if you're looking for a gym, whether it's class settings, you want personalized training, you want experience on, your diet, if you're looking to get into anything Spartan related, and you really want to up your game in that sense, definitely Paul and everybody down at Warrior Fitness is definitely where you want to go. You can definitely look him up online at warriorfitness.com, Fresno. You definitely want to look up those YouTube videos because they're pretty cool looking. But if you're that person's also too that is just really looking for that, hey, I want to get into a better level of shape, okay? This is where you really want to go, okay? So you guys check him out. Good friend. But yeah, without further ado, I just want to welcome Paul to the show.
Thanks, Jimmy. I'm definitely honored to be here.
Man, so let's dive into some stuff. We can definitely scrap stories all day long.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about just really quick touching on, you grew up in New York, right? It was in New York or Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. And went to school in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I'll give you a tiny little overview. Yeah, just grew up born in New Jersey, went to school in Western Mass, and then after high school, went down to New York, college, stayed there, and went into the military.
Okay.
And ended up on the West Coast.
What age did you go in the military?
Old. Very old.
Old for modern standards or just military standards?
It's old.
Okay.
35. That's
okay.
That's literally the oldest, even with age waivers.
Right.
That they allow. So that's when I went in. It was following a long road, but ultimately it was after 9/11.
Gotcha.
There was some other stuff leading up before then that medically I didn't qualify for, and then I kind of changed paths and whatnot. But then I came back to it after 9/11 and went into the military, and like I said, ended up here on the West Coast.
Right. So let's, and this was a part of my selection process of approaching you was, I investigated the gym a little bit, looked into what it was about, of course, right? And so, you walk into the gym and it can be very, very intimidating to some. To me, it looked like this is going to beat the crap out of me. This is what it looked like, at that stage of where it was at that time. Yeah. And I said, this is exactly what I need. But I think a lot of that really just kind of came out of, your military background.
Yeah, the gym, as you were like giving us a little plug, which I appreciate.
No problem.
We're actually specialized in people going into the military, and in particular, folks that are going into the military special ops.
Yeah.
That really was not the main. It certainly wasn't the main, but it was a niche from the beginning that I wanted to continue, which I was already doing before I opened the gym.
Right.
So when I opened up, I wanted to make sure that we had, an advanced elite obstacle course that I could design.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing that just by virtue of the fact that it actually does feel pretty awesome to, just trash your body. You're not getting injured.
Yeah.
But when you really push your limits, amazing things happen. And so you
Yeah.
do feel great. But yeah, that's what, from professional men and women to,
Right.
we have a couple of college students, and then we've got law enforcement, first responders, and then we already mentioned, those military folks.
Right. So let me ask you this, for our listeners, I know personally, before I came to you, I was at 270 pounds, pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
Doctor basically said, you don't change your diet, you don't change what you're doing, you're gonna visit me because you've had a stroke or
Yeah.
heart attack, right? So I think that here's a tool in the tool shed that a lot of men miss, is that first of all, the discipline, the mental fortitude that it takes to get up and grind every single day, the impacts of that in a man's life. So let me ask you this: so how do you think that is, I don't know, projected, if you will, inside that family unit, the importance of that? I'm going to go in no matter what. I understand my family's getting up, they're getting ready, whatever. You've got those 4, 5, 6 o'clock guys who go in and get it, right?
Of course, yeah.
So how do you think, for you, from your perspective, how important is that for us men to really just feel that achievement that I've done something hard and difficult?
It's so important. And, I'll just tell you a few little backstories too. That honestly is exactly how I created my sort of physical and mental strength, and helped me through so much of my life journeys of difficult aspects. But we've heard like cliches. They're actually true. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline.
Yeah.
It's so valuable and so true. And like when I got to Fresno, like even before my crazy training days, I should say after my crazy days, not even getting into the crazy training to get me ready for the Navy SEAL
Right.
officer program and the dedication it took to get there. But even just coming out and being now a dad, a brand new dad in 2009, and having a lot of family challenges, not having a job, trying to find a career,
Yeah.
landing in the Fresno Police Academy, and really trying to go through a lot of difficulties, including a breakup with my ex, with a incredibly challenging, crazy
Yeah.
custody battle,
Yeah.
which is just mind-boggling as a great dad and Christian and father figure that I wanted to be. But that was a massive custody battle, and yet through all kinds of massive stress, I still worked out every
Right.
single day.
Right.
I say, like, everyone says, like, oh yeah, I run like every day, and they're really talking about like they probably run like once or twice a week.
Yeah.
I'm talking like I trained every day.
Yeah.
So that was on top of the police academy, on top of massive legal bills, on top of massive stress. So the police academy is actually a pretty good academy. Just on a totally side note, it's a great academy. A lot of high requirements they have there. I give them a lot of credit for what they do. Earn a lot of studying. And so it's a full-time gig there at the police academy. I'd wake up in the morning at like 4:30, so I could train before I went to the police academy.
Yeah.
And then go in there, because I still had my workout to do. Or if I missed it in the morning, get it done at night. Or maybe I was just planning on 2 a day. So you're asking me how important or what does that do? It really does create so much just mental strength when you start following through on stuff that you don't feel like doing.
Yeah.
Once you start commanding or demanding you yourself to follow through on something that you agreed to within your own mind, that, yeah, this is what I should do. Yeah, I should work out. Okay, well, is that on days that you feel like working out?
Yeah.
Or is that on every day like you were originally thinking?
Right.
No, that was on every day because that's what you were originally thinking.
Yeah.
So why are you going to not do it? Because you don't feel good? I mean, I'm not talking about being sick, but just because you're not motivated?
Right.
So you create that discipline to just do it.
Right.
And amazing things start happening.
I think for myself, when I was looking at this, I was like, okay, there was the shock and the reality of, Doc telling me, hey, you've got to make changes if you want to stick around for your family. And that's where it all started. But I think the reality for me was, okay, now I've got to find something that I'm going to stick with, right? It's you got to find that plan, that niche, whatever it is. Maybe you might be a bodybuilder, maybe you might be a runner, maybe you might be an obstacle course racer, whatever it is.
I'm all about that.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got to find that niche because ultimately, I think that what you have to do is you have to find how to turn on that switch to where it's second nature. Like for instance, now, we've got the knee replacement, but the mentality is literally still there. So this morning got up, I cranked out 200 push-ups.
Nice.
And then I did that's a true story.
I believe you. There's no doubt about that.
Kettlebells. I did 100 kettlebells because I knew I was going to be sitting in the seat in front of you, and I was going, you know what? I can't say that I do this kind of stuff unless I really do it. I mean, that's just,
exactly.
That's just not who I am.
Yeah.
But having that mental fortitude is literally so vital, and that's like one of the things that I really enjoyed, in learning that in training sessions with you was going, okay, so I've gone this far, but I'm going to turn up the notch on you, Jimmy. We're going to go further. Right?
Totally.
We're, you hear the terms and it's so cliche. Oh, embrace the suck. I don't mean to downplay that. Right.
Right.
But that's a true thing.
Totally.
And it really is. And by no means am I claiming to have any idea of what it is to go through a BUD/S, to go to, a spec ops school of any sorts whatsoever. But what I was getting was that mentality.
Oh, totally.
That drive behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. We went on some crazy training days.
Yes.
You and I together.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was very impressed. And very, very impressed. I was like, this guy definitely is bringing the mental strength.
Yeah.
And you did amazing.
I think that, thank you, but I think that fathers as a whole, and if you're a leader, it doesn't matter what background you're really looking in. If you're looking at the longevity of your life and your lifestyle with your family, you've got to find that niche of that mental and physical fortitude, that grit, if you will, to really just continue in that vein of, I'm going to go get it no matter what, because it's going to impact every single area of your life, your job, your marriage, your kids, because then your kids are going to even take notice. Hey, Dad's going to the gym.
Yeah.
He's not playing around, right? Your wife is going to take notice, Oh, well, I've been married 10, 15 years. I got a little comfortable, right? I got a little couch potato. I mean, I'll say it, man. I had big man boobies when I was like at 270. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
For me, I realized I was a former athlete. I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And I lost that, man. And so, fast forward, I'm at Warrior Fitness and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I can do things now that I actually never could have done years prior when I was younger.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah,
It really
totally.
was.
Yeah.
It really was. And so I really owe that to you. But, I don't want to get off on 2 weeks ago, definitely all the way down the bunny trails and, share our stories of training and all of that. But I want to get into some of more of your background here. So are you ready to become the strongest version of yourself, Alpha Men? Meet Paul Watson, a military veteran. Paul knows the importance of physical fitness, mental and physical toughness, and the role it plays in one's overall health and well-being. That's why I'm proud to recommend Warrior Fitness, a fitness program designed to help you become the strongest version of yourself. Whether you're looking for elite military selection training, including endurance and strength training, group classes, individualized training, and personalized diet plan development, we're here to help you achieve your fitness goals. Our experienced trainers understand the value of hard work and perseverance, and they will work with you to push your limits and achieve new heights. Join our community of warriors and take on a new challenge that will help you to build strength, increase your endurance, and improve your overall health. With Warrior Fitness, you'll discover a new sense of discipline, resilience, and pride. Sign up today and let's take on the challenge together. Check them out at their Fresno location at 8039 North Cedar Avenue, Fresno, California, 93720, or on the web on Instagram and Facebook. Or if you want to just give them a call, go ahead, 559-242-2570. Stay alpha. Let's start with buds. I mean that's it's in our movies today. We hear about stories about Navy SEALs all the time. Everybody's writing a book now about being a Navy SEAL, their experiences and all that. But I'm really interested in your story about what that was like going in at 36.
Yeah.
Right?
Just to kind of clarify, I'm not a Navy SEAL.
Right.
I was attached to them as a tech.
Right.
There's an extraordinary story I'm proud of that I don't mind sharing. So I did go in at 36. I went into the Navy at 35 after 9/11. And it, in terms of like you're just asking, like what it really is a physical smackdown circus is the best way to put it. And so you have to be exceptional in 5 things. Okay. You have to be a phenomenal runner. You have to be a fish in the water, a collegiate level swimmer. Yeah. You have to be incredibly strong, but also have endurance. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about your upper body endurance. I'm talking about those 200 push-ups that you did today. Probably, I'm just guessing, but probably weren't all straight at one time.
Towards the end, yeah.
Oh, you did?
I can admit that. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about being able to do 200 push-ups straight. Yeah.
Clean, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a massive amount of endurance.
Yeah.
And then incredibly agile because the obstacle course is insane. And then the mental fortitude covers everything because it is a massive amount of discomfort.
Yeah.
And of physical pain, but not like, because we're going to, we're going to torture you. It's just you're going to bring your own pain. If you want to, succeed, you're going to push your body. And, anyone knows it does any cardio hurts if you push your limit.
Exactly.
That's why everybody hates cardio. But if you're going to try to compete, you're going to bring, so how much pain tolerance do you have?
Right.
So, and then the massive cold. So that's what it comes down to. And it really is a circus. And so it's an extraordinary experience.
So, we'll see a movie or read a book about this, and see the guys that got the log in the water. They're they're all chanting the same thing. It's everybody shaking. It's nighttime, and you just think about like who signs up for this. I mean, because you got to volunteer for it.
Yeah, I was an incredibly average teenager, below average. It certainly wasn't anything. I played first base baseball for my little league team, and then they put me on the outfield, left field, because that was like the worst spot to be.
Okay.
So I was such an average, physical kid.
Yeah.
Nothing at all exceptional, and I did end up, gravitating a little bit towards athletics later as I moved forward into my teenage years.
Gotcha.
Nothing still too totally exceptional. High school basketball. And I did have a great friend who turned out to be a phenomenal, actually world-class athlete.
Okay.
And so we were best buddies, and we were just hanging around, and he was a training freak. And so that's what actually kind of shaped my discipline and training, but it still really wasn't all that exceptional at that point. Yeah. I just did bring a little bit of self-discipline in those late teenage years. And then college in Long Island, I kind of my life changed a little bit because, when we got these headphones on, I said, I don't think you even picked up. I was like, this brings back a few memories. Yeah. I was actually a DJ.
Really?
Yeah, I was a New York City DJ.
Grandmaster Paul.
I was a nightclub. I was a club DJ.
Wow.
And I was on the radio as well, not in New York, but I was also on the radio. So my life was going down a certain road, and it kind of changed fairly dramatically.
Okay.
And at that point, I wanted to do something physical, and so I was still in college. I was like, I need to do something hard. I need to do something, and so it wasn't even military yet.
Yeah.
It was going out for the college track team.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, they start in 6 months. Let me start training now.
Okay.
And so I trained, and I made it on to the Division I Long Island University track team.
Wow.
And then so after that, it was just, graduated with an English degree, and then was just working in, professional suit and tie,
Right.
and was not really happy.
Yeah.
And at some point, it just was, I need to do something. I don't know. Epic wasn't the word. I need to do something where I feel like I'm being challenged and bringing my inner strength to.
Right.
And it was like, I think the military, and just turned out that buddy of mine was a Marines officer.
Okay.
And he was actually going into special forces at that time. And so we were talking, I was exploring some of those avenues with him. And so that's where it just came from, is like, I think I want to try something challenging for myself instead of just suit and tie, which is nothing wrong with at all.
No, definitely not.
But just, I wanted something where I could feel like I need to challenge myself physically. I'm not the brightest bulb in the tool shed. Okay,
I'm right there with you.
That's the wrong cliche. I got them mixed up. See what I'm saying? I'm not the sharpest tool.
Yeah.
Or I'm not the brightest bulb. Right. So I knew where my limits and my strengths were.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this corporate life, it's just not. I'm not going to succeed. I'm not going to excel, and therefore I'm not going to be happy.
Right.
It's not my calling. And I thought my calling was a little bit more along the lines of physical.
Okay.
And so that's how it came about. But interestingly enough, that was a long time ago. That was in my 20s. And I said I didn't go into the military until my 30s. So the 20s is when I started. And then it turned out that the Navy SEALs have a not only an enlisted program, but also an officer
Program. Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
And so what they did is they took 12 men from around the country
Interesting.
every year. And I wanted to be one of those 12 men.
12 men.
So I trained every day for a year.
Yeah.
I'd say every day, easily 365 workouts, because so many of those days were 2-a-days. So many of those I probably trained 400, 450 workouts in a year. And so after that, then I applied, and I came out and went in so it took me a while. I also had to learn to become a swimmer. And not just a swimmer, but a pretty bad swimmer.
Yeah.
And so that was just every day, 2-a-days. I can vividly remember 2 massive swim workouts on multiple days. And it was just one of the most funnest things I did, because I could see me getting better as the weeks were progressing. And it was so exciting to feel that and whatnot.
Right.
But ultimately, at that point, after I applied, and they were like, "Hey, I just won the event," and they're like, "Hey, you did pretty good. Come back next month." And then they did that for a year, and it basically turned into a selection process. And every month, it was competing against tougher individuals, and so I got selected, but then I was medically disqualified.
Okay. So what knocked you out of that running?
My eyes.
Your
eyes.
eyes.
I was just totally arrogant. I'm like, dude, I'll put on contacts.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you. I was like, yeah, I saw the requirement. I
Yeah.
thought I could get an eye waiver.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, there's no eye waiver.
No eye waiver.
Dumb, you idiot.
Can you get a brain waiver?
Yeah, exactly. I gotta get a brain waiver. So, so I was pretty much dead in the water. But then the officer leading up the selection process called me up, and he said, "Watson, there's actually now the officer do allow eye surgery. It's brand new,
Right.
1997, I guess.
Okay.
Go ahead and, if you want, go get eye surgery." So I got eye surgery, and then the catch there was then you had to wait a year.
Okay.
And then I was like, "Hey, that's great, but now the SEALs had an age limit of 28. I was 28 at the time. So then it was like, okay.
Right on the line.
So I was like, hey, can I get an age waiver a year from now? And like, we can't give any promises, but if you do this, this, and that again, if you're able to compete like this, we'll give you an age waiver. So I got the eye surgery, and a year later, I put in my packet, and it was rejected. I was like, oh, this must be a formality. So I called up the guy giving out age waivers, and I was like, hey, is Commander so-and-so? This was down in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Basically, he's like a gatekeeper that would approve waivers, this and that. And I actually had his office number because that's the guy I went to talk to before I did my eye surgery. And I was like, hey, is Commander so-and-so there? And they're like, hey, Commander so-and-so no longer works here. And we're no longer giving any age waivers for the entire Navy across the board.
Yeah.
So thanks for applying. Have a good day. So that was 1999. And so then I fought it. And then at some point I had no money. I was like, I got to move on with my life.
Done.
So that's when I started trying to figure out what to do in my life.
Yeah.
So that was 1999. 2 years later, 9/11 happened.
Right.
And then, as I said, that's when I re-picked up. And then it was a journey to try to get in. But they didn't want me. I went to the Air Force Pararescue. They wanted me. They're like, yeah, you do those kinds of. I competed in their screening test, won that event. They're like, yeah, we'll definitely take you at 30 years old.
Gotcha.
And I was like, great, I'm going to sign up.
Yeah.
So I went for that medical, and then I was disqualified because I had eye surgery a couple years earlier. They're like, yeah, there's no eye waivers in the Air Force. So
it's insult to injury.
Yeah, and then trying to circle back around. Eventually, I contacted the SEALs, or eventually I got them to agree to at least give me a test.
Right.
And for the officers, I won that again. And then they're like, okay, we'll give you an age waiver for the enlisted.
Right.
So that's how I got in. Long story, sorry. But
No. I know. I got
there it is for you, at least anyway, a little bit of it.
Yeah. No, what we're going to do is we're definitely going to have you back. You know, we're going to do a volume 2 on this one because there's so much that I want to get to. But, you know, I've got another question that I want to hit you up with.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to have you back if that's okay.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd love to.
So, for me, you know, when I was entering into obstacle course racing, there was the big push for me was I have a platform here is what it was, and so the platform was by being who I was at that stage in that season of my life, you know, racing and just, you know, training, and it was just, you know, it was a job. It really was
that's
a job.
the best job of all, though.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great job.
It is.
But one of the things that I tried to balance is, you know, my spiritual walk as well, because it's so vitally important for me, and always trying to encourage people, you know. So I asked this of you is, so for yourself, like, how important is that aspect for you in your day-to-day life?
Which aspect?
The aspect of just your spiritual life with the Lord, you know?
I've been through things that I couldn't have gotten through without praying daily, hourly sometimes.
Right.
So it is super important. I'm trying to find ways to really give you some example of genuine, because everyone can say that, but it has really helped me just believe that it's going to be, whatever the difficulty is, you just put your faith and do what's right, regardless of whether it's comfortable or not.
Yeah.
And the chips are going to fall where they are, but ultimately it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And even though bad situations happen, they happen for good reasons. And so I am a full believer in that. Just a tiny touch on a little bit, like I said, I've gone through some situations, and it was, I don't know if you listen to any Christian rock bands, but a band called Third Day.
Yeah.
So they had a song called Tunnel right around 2009 when I was going through some really had no money, zero money. I was like scraping for quarters. This was
Yeah.
after the police academy and the housing crisis. So there was no jobs anywhere. Graduated near the top of my
Remember
class.
that.
The
Was in
police
the same
academy.
boat.
Yeah. I was coming out of the military, got out of the military, of course, military special ops, top secret security clearance, all this great stuff, but I couldn't get a job anywhere. And then I graduated near the top of the Fresno Police Academy, but there was zero jobs. So, and of course, as I alluded to a little while ago in the beginning, I was going through some major custody issues with
Gotcha.
my ex for absolutely insane reasons
Yeah.
that are incredibly unfortunate and not her. Thankfully, not me. But I did the right thing and fought for my son.
Yeah.
And it bankrupted me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job. And so just going through massive amounts of stress like that and also still working out. But it was like sometimes I would just listen to that song. Like, I don't even want to say like 10 times a day. It was like maybe 10 times an hour.
Wow.
And then pray because
Yeah.
I was like, I have my car's repossessed. I'm living on like the few friends I know. I don't even have any real friends, but the one or two clients now that they're letting me stay in their living room for a little bit. That's how low I was.
It's a tough
and I was
spot.
like, I know I've got a success journey.
Yeah.
But I've got to keep forging through and not break down, not give up. And so yeah, it was praying not to make it better, but just to help me keep going.
Yeah.
To just help me keep going. And so that's what I did. I prayed every day, multiple times a day. And I remember that song, man. I swear to God, I played that song hundreds of times, sometimes a day. Because it's a great song if you ever listen to the lyrics of that song, Tunnel. And then just the whole band is amazing.
Yeah, I know the guys over. He's one of the guys is local now. He's over at Cross City Church. Yeah,
You're kidding me.
yeah,
No way.
worship, yeah, worship leader.
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
got to go say hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, what's his name?
You know what? I can't remember.
I gotta head
what,
over there.
What the name of
I'm
the band
actually gonna
member
head
is.
over there.
Yeah, but you know where it's at. It's right off of
I'm going to head over there.
Nice, I think is
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So I just found that out about 2-3 months ago. So
Wow. But
and
that's the kind of like faith that, at least for my story,
yeah,
and well, here's the craziest thing. I had complete confidence. I don't know why or how.
yeah,
I just had complete confidence. The more I prayed, the more confident I got.
wow,
And I'm gonna kind of like maybe mention something that's a little. I would like even get emotional because I was so confident. I was like, man, this feels so amazing.
yeah,
It's like I am
Presence
this
of
low
God.
and I feel so confident, and it would sometimes even make me emotional.
oh, I believe it.
Yeah,
I believe
it. It was an amazing. I wouldn't, pass that experience up at all for anything. So I'm glad I went through it.
I tend to lean on this that what you do in your disciplines in your different areas of life make you better in other areas. For instance, if you've got that mental fortitude, the physical fortitude, the grit, and all those things, they tend to drip into those other areas of your life, like your spiritual life, because your spiritual life is no different than choosing to get up in the morning, work out hard, or whenever
Totally.
you choose your workout, right? So
Yeah.
you're gonna say, listen, I'm gonna make some time for me and God. I'm gonna pray.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read.
Right.
Whatever it is, you're gonna do something that is
Yeah.
gonna propel you,
Yeah.
right?
But it's a choice.
It
yeah,
it's
you're right.
absolutely is a choice.
Exactly. That's where it comes back to the discipline.
Yeah.
And, are you going to do it or not? And so I just always believe in discipline is such a vital characteristic to have.
Yeah. I think that, if you're going to, got my hands out here. So if I've got, workout, mental fortitude, physical fortitude, all that thing, how that looks. And then I've got my spiritual aspects as well. And I lay those on top of each other. The funny thing about that is that, I remember one time you told me in the gym, you know, and I was really getting my butt kicked one day. I mean,
that happened frequently.
One day that was that was a daily occurrence. It was a daily occurrence. And the funny thing is like the awe moment, like I'm really in for something, was when you told me, you said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, this is not going to get easier." And I was like, "What the crap? What are you talking about?" And this was the only saving grace that really helped me out with that. You said it will get faster,
Yeah.
but it will not get easier.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
"Are
you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is crazy." You know, I don't think that, you know, the day when Jesus calls his disciples and says, "Hey, by the way, everybody, here's my flyer for what we're going to be doing. You know, you're going to die upside down on cross."
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Alpha Men, if you guys are looking for some really cool gear, I just want to promote this company because I genuinely believe in it. It's called Seek Jesus. I've got their hoodie and I really enjoy it. It's nice and comfortable. It's got in really big letters on the back, Seek Jesus, a little bit of letters on the front that say the same thing. If you're looking to make a statement for Christ and you want to spark that conversation right off the get-go without even having to crack your Bible, I want you guys to go check them out. Check them out on Instagram or on the web. You can find them at www.seekjesus.co. Check out their clothing line. They've got hats, they've got shorts, they've got beanies. They've got everything you need to properly rep Jesus. Go check them out at www.seekjesus.co. I think you would have saw lots of hands on that one, right? Right? But I think though, once you engage in that process of really trying to, and I don't say just for redefining a self-help, I'm not saying anything like that at all, but you're really trying to become that best version, including Jesus into that version as a man, is so vital.
Yeah,
it's so key.
Of course, yeah.
You know, I think that you're missing the boat if you really think that you can train your mental, your physical, and leave out your spiritual.
100%. Yeah.
Some people kind of group them together, you know, depending on who you are, whatnot, and that's all cool and well. But the reality is I see those as very definitive, different areas of my life that I've got to pay attention to.
Totally.
Right? Obviously, one is greater than the other, right?
Of course, yeah.
But again, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to change gears and wrap this thing up, but we're definitely going to have you back.
Sweet, man.
And we're going to really get into some of these other nuts and bolts that we didn't get to today.
Anytime you want, man.
Man, thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Cool.